Hey guys, it's Rick with BamAquatics again. I thought I'd take us back to the very beginning with my first tank here behind me. I'm going to put up a pic of what it looked like at the very beginning when I first started out and set it up with just a couple of plants. The one little feature you see there and just a few fish. Like I mentioned before, I started out with a kit tank with a whole setup, and went ahead and put fish in. Started with the fish in cycle, which is not the best way to go, as we've talked about, but that's what I did. Luckily for me, I started out with some pretty hardy fish. I did lose some fish. I added way too many fish at the beginning, and that caused me to lose some fish. I lost a couple of angelfish, lost some tiger barbs and some things like that. But I have the original gouramis here that were in my tank, and several other fish that are in this tank, and we're going to talk more about that as we go through this video, so stay tuned. Alright guys, as we take a look here behind me, you can see I've got a couple of gouramis here in the front. Three actually gouramis. I've got the powder blue gourami there, got the flame gourami there, I've got the gold gourami. That's the big girl right there. She's always been a healthy eater and anxious to get some food. As you can see, I have one cichlid in the tank, a Crispinsis, which can be a bit aggressive. He pretty much rules the tank, but he really has not caused that many problems. He is in charge, but he really hasn't caused me that many problems in the tank. He's a newer addition to the tank as well. As you can see, I've got some black skirt tetras there. I've also got some gold barbs that I really like. They've grown considerably since I first got them. Maybe I'll have some pictures of that I can put on when I first got them. They were a lot smaller than they are now. And I've got a rainbow shark here on the bottom, you can see. I also have some Priscilla tetras there. There's some cherry barbs in there somewhere. A lot of times they hide out in the foliage back there, but they're here. And up in the corner you could get a glimpse of some zebra danios. But I'm going to give these guys some food, and then I'm going to get a little bit closer here so you can see a little bit better what I've got in here. Alright guys, I've just given them some food, so this ought to get them pretty active here as we go along. You can see those gold barbs there. You can see the hungry gold gourami there on top. You see the Crispinsis over here eating up. There's a flame gourami. Down here you see some of the cherries coming out to get a little bite of food there. The zebra danios will be up towards the top, flying around up here getting some food. As you can see, they all love to eat. Healthy fish or hungry fish. These guys are always hungry. So anyway, just wanted to kind of give you a brief overview of some of the fish I have. Now we can talk a little bit about some of the plants I have here in the tank. I started out with just some really small plants, and as you can see, they've grown considerably. As you can see from the earlier picture, they started out really small, and I've actually moved a lot of these plants, some of these offspring from these plants or some of the growth from these plants to the other tanks to move to get some plants there. So we'll talk a little bit more about the different plants that I have in the tank and how they grow. Over here, this one, as you can see, Amazon sword. It's pretty easy to grow. Doesn't really cause any problems in the tank. Just grows right there. Grows up nice and tall and straight. And then of course you can see back there in the back, and then again over here to the side, we've got some water wisteria that's growing there. It's doing really good here in the tank. We have the one plant here, and we'll talk about that because that's not really an aquatic plant. I picked that up not knowing what it was, but it's not really an aquatic plant, so it's not really doing all that great. And you can see I've got some java moss here in the front. And then back in the back you can see I have a java fern back in the back there. So anyway, everything's growing really good. There's a nice view of a cherry shrimp, cherry barb right there. So everything's growing really good, and the fish are all nice and healthy and happy. So I've sort of got this tank where I want it to be. So we'll talk more about the tank as we go along.